want to tell you a story. I'm going to ask you all to close your eyes while I tell you this story.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 courtroom monologues in movies.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most captivating speeches delivered during court proceedings or formal hearings. Since we'll be discussing some climactic moments, we are issuing a spoiler alert. Which of these monologues had you utterly convinced? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10, Daniel Hillard pleads for custody. Mrs. Doubtfire. Robin Williams delivered a rousing speech as the titular character in 1998's Patch Adams. In that film, he plays a medical student, passionately defending his use of humour in front of the state medical board.
Well, if this means opening your door to those in need, those in pain, caring for them, listening to them, applying a cold cloth until a fever breaks, if this is practicing medicine, if this is treating a patient, then I am guilty as charged, sir.
But the late actor's most memorable appeal takes place in the 1993 blockbuster comedy drama.
In regards to my behavior, I can only plead insanity. Because ever since my children were born, the moment I looked at them, I was crazy about them.
After his disguise as the titular nanny is revealed, Daniel explains his motivations for the ruse at a custody hearing. His testimony is both poetic and raw, and it's expertly delivered by Williams.
I love them with all my heart. And the idea of someone telling me I can't be with them, I can't see them every day, it's like someone saying I can't have air. I can't live without air, and I can't live without them.
The father, who could never be serious, is now as candid and sincere as we've ever seen, and we can't help but root for him.
We have a history, and they mean everything to me, and they need me as much as I need them. So please, don't take my kids away from me.
Number 9, Becoming a Schnook, Goodfellas. This biographical crime film adapts the life of Henry Hill, a one-time New York City mafia member.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
In the 1950s, Hill begins working with local mobsters and rises through the ranks of a crime organization. Some 25 years later, he decides to rat on two powerful associates and join the Witness Protection Program.
It was easy for all of us to disappear. My house was in my mother-in-law's name. My cars were registered to my wife. My social security cards and driver's licenses were phonies. I never voted. I never paid taxes.
With the film switching in and out of his voiceover during courtroom proceedings, we hear of Henry's conflicted feelings about moving on.
See, the hardest thing for me was leaving the life. I still love the life. And we were treated like movie stars with muscle. We had it all just for the asking. Our wives, mothers, kids, everybody rode along.
The sequence is immediately memorable for breaking the fourth wall, but the monologue is most fascinating for its matter-of-fact perspective on transitioning from a gangster to an average Joe.
We ran everything. We paid off cops, we paid off lawyers, we paid off judges. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. And now it's all over.
Number 8, The Perm, Legally Blonde. This beloved comedy follows Elle Woods, a fashion merchandising student who takes on Harvard Law School after being dumped by her boyfriend.
Pooh Bear,
Yes.
I think we should break up.
What? She lands an internship with a professor and ends up taking over one of his clients in a murder trial. In the film's climactic scene, Elle seems to have reached a dead end while cross-examining the accused stepdaughter.
Your father was shot while you were in the shower, but you didn't hear the shot because you were in the shower?
But with a truly impressive line of reasoning about the witness's hair care habits, Elle solves the case on the spot.
Because isn't it the first cardinal rule of perm maintenance that you're forbidden to wet your hair for at least 24 hours after getting a perm, at the risk of deactivating the ammonium thioglycolate?
Yes.
It might not be the most realistic scene, given the protagonist's status as a first-year law student, but it's a massive triumph that cemented the main character's iconic status.
She's my age. Did she tell you that? How would you feel if your father married someone who was your age?
You, however, had time to hide the gun, didn't you, Chutney? After you shot your father.
I didn't mean to shoot him. I thought it was you walking through the door.
Number 7, a climate of hatred and fear. Philadelphia. This legal drama follows Andrew Beckett, a lawyer who believes he was fired for his sexuality and his AIDS diagnosis. Although initially unsympathetic to Beckett's situation, attorney Joe Miller eventually decides to take on his case.
Point number 3, his employers discovered his illness. And ladies and gentlemen, the illness I'm referring to is AIDS. Point number 4, they panicked.
At trial, the latter's opening statement is captivating for its clarity and his direct gaze into the camera, but it's not quite his most memorable speech.
Everybody in this courtroom is thinking about sexual orientation, sexual preference, whatever you want to call it. Who does what to whom and how they do it.
Later, he delivers a searing argument for why the trial isn't only about illness, but also about pervasive bigotry.
So let's talk about what this case is really all about. The general public's hatred, our loathing, our fear of homosexuals. And how that climate of hatred and fear translated into the firing of this particular homosexual.
It's a rousing moment that captures Miller's way with words, but it also reveals his own attitudes changing for the better.
In this courtroom, Mr. Miller, justice is blind to matters of race, creed, color, religion, and sexual orientation.
With all due respect, Your Honor, we don't live in this courtroom, no, do we?
Number 6, Mona Lisa Vito's testimony. My cousin Vinny. In a movie full of kooky characters, Marisa Tomei's has to be one of the most iconic, and as it turns out, the film's central trial hinges on her testimony.
But does being an ex-mechanic necessarily qualify you as being an expert on tire marks?
No. Thank you. Goodbye.
Sit down and stay there until you're told to leave.
The comedy focuses on Vinny Gambini, an inexperienced lawyer representing his cousin charged with murder. Vinny's fiancée isn't trusted by the opposing counsel as a car expert, but she schools him in truly epic fashion.
Because Chevy didn't make a 327 in 55. The 327 didn't come out till 62, and it wasn't offered in the Bel Air with the 4-barrel carb till 64. However, in 1964, the correct ignition timing would be 4 degrees before top dead center.
She then rattles off an analysis of car tracks that manages to exonerate the accused.
Because there is no way that these tire marks were made by a 64 Buick Skylark. These marks were made by a 1963 Pontiac Tempest.
There's much to love about this courtroom classic, but Lisa's intelligence and attitude make her starring moment a definite highlight.
When the left tire mark goes up on the curb and the right tire mark stays flat and even, well, the 64 Skylark had a solid rear axle. So when the left tire would go up on the curb, the right tire would tilt out and ride along its edge. But that didn't happen here. The tire mark stayed flat and even. This car had an independent rear suspension.
Number 5, a painful story. A Time to Kill. In this film, Carly Haley, a black resident of Canton, Mississippi, takes revenge against two white men who brutally assaulted his daughter. The devastated father selects lawyer Jake Brigance to represent him in the high-profile murder trial.
America is a war, and you on the other side. How a black man ever gonna get a fair trial with the enemy on the bench in the jury box? My life in white hands.
Before long, the two must reckon with an all-white jury and the threats of a rallying Ku Klux Klan. After a soul-bearing conversation with his client, Brigance takes a unique approach to his closing argument.
This is a story about a little girl walking home from the grocery store one sunny afternoon. I want you to picture this little girl. Suddenly a truck races up.
Telling the painful story of Tonya Haley's victimization, the attorney begins to break down.
When they're done, after they've killed her tiny womb, murdered any chance for her to bear children, to have life beyond her own.
With just 4 words, his final line calls out the jurors' bias and demands that they act with integrity.
Now imagine she's white.
In a film full of powerful moments from Samuel L. Jackson and Matthew McConaughey, this one is unforgettable. Number 4, just getting warmed up. Scent of a Woman. This scene may not actually take place in a court of law, but it simply can't be forgotten.
Mr. Charles Sims is excused from any further response to this incident.
Hoorah!
The film focuses on ex-Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade and his temporary caretaker Charlie, a prep school student. During the drama's climactic disciplinary hearing, the teen is reluctant to testify as an eyewitness regarding a campus prank.
What the hell is that? What is your motto here? Boys, inform on your classmates, save your hide. Anything short of that, we're gonna burn you at the stake?
When the embittered headmaster suggests that Charlie be expelled, Frank launches into a defense of his assistant.
I mean, the only class in this act is sitting next to me, and I'm here to tell you, this boy's soul is intact. It's non-negotiable. You know how I know? Someone here, and I'm not gonna say who, offered to buy it. Only Charlie here wasn't selling.
The impassioned and profanity-laced speech perfectly captures the Army vet's brazen personality, while also revealing his emotional growth.
He won't sell anybody out to buy his future. And that, my friends, is called integrity. That's called courage. Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
Plus, it's downright satisfying to see the smarmy principal be taken down in such a bombastic way. Number 3, I'm His Mother, Kramer vs. Kramer. When it comes to divorce movies, few cut quite as deep as this legal drama. Joanna Kramer suddenly departs for California, leaving her work-focused husband Ted to take care of their son alone.
I'm leaving you.
Honey, please. I can't hear. What? Okay, you too. Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow. You guys eat?
Ted, I'm leaving you.
Upon her return, the two parents begin a custody battle that gets ugly in court. In one particularly memorable scene, Joanna makes her case in front of the judge.
I know I left my son. I know that that's a terrible thing to do. Believe me, I have to live with that every day of my life.
It's an uphill battle, and her conflicted emotions are palpable. As the character explains her flight from an unhappy marriage, Meryl Streep imbues the testimony with both regret and hope.
And I have worked very, very hard to become a whole human being. And I don't think I should be punished for that. And I don't think my little boy should be punished.
It's a thoroughly convincing performance and a hugely memorable scene.
I don't know how anybody can possibly believe that I have less of a stake in mothering that little boy than Mr. Kramer does. I'm his mother.
Number 2, closing arguments. To Kill a Mockingbird.
She says for me to kiss her back. And I said, Miss Mayheller, let me out of here. And I tried to run.
This drama is based on the celebrated novel of the same name by Harper Lee. Set in the early 1930s, the film follows lawyer Atticus Finch as he attempts to defend a local black man.
The witnesses for the state, with the exception of the sheriff of Macomb County, have presented themselves to you gentlemen, to this court, in the cynical confidence.
With a culture of prejudice pervading the town and an all-white jury presiding over the trial, defendant Tom Robinson's chance of acquittal seemed tragically slim. In his final address to the jurors, Finch pleads that they recognize his client's clear innocence.
An assumption that one associates with minds of their caliber. And which is in itself, gentlemen, a lie.
The attorney's lengthy speech is, of course, a methodical analysis of the case. But more importantly, Finch's monologue reveals how bigotry and oppression affect the legal system, and it still rings true today.
His word against 2 white peoples. The defendant is not guilty. But somebody in this courtroom is.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honourable mentions. The Bullet, JFK. The New Orleans District Attorney explains the notorious single bullet theory.
Anyone who's been in combat will tell you never in the history of gunfire has there been a bullet this ridiculous. Yet the government says it can prove it with some fancy physics in a nuclear laboratory.
You Are the Law, the verdict. A down-on-his-luck lawyer delivers a stirring final statement about the nature of justice.
We doubt ourselves, we doubt our beliefs. We doubt our institutions. And we doubt the law. But today, you are the law.
Out of Order and Justice for All. A lawyer is blackmailed into defending a nefarious judge, but turns on his client.
If he's allowed to go free, then something really wrong is going on.
Mr. Kirkland, you are out of order.
You're out of order. You're out of order. The whole trial is out of order. They're out of order.
Do what you think is right. The Rainmaker. An underdog law school grad condemns the actions of an insurance company.
I hope that you are astonished, as I am, at the lengths to which a wealthy insurance company like the defendant will go to take money from a low-income family and then keep it by denying a legitimate claim.
Fanaticism and ignorance inherit the wind. Spencer Tracy defends teaching evolution in this fictionalized version of a real-life trial.
We do not need experts to question the validity of a law that is already on the books.
Well, what do you need? A gallows to hang him from?
That remark is an insult to this entire community.
And this community is an insult to the world.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, The Truth, A Few Good Men. This legal drama contains one scene that has become particularly iconic, and for good reason.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
In the film, 2 US Marines are brought to military trial over the murder of their colleague, William Santiago. Rookie lawyer Lieutenant Daniel Caffey takes on the case, and questions whether the execution was ordered by a high-ranking official.
You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know, that Santiago's death, while tragic, probably saved lives, and my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives.
When Kathy is forced to call the colonel in question to the stand, he has no idea what he's in for. In a fiery rant, Jack Nicholson's Nathan Jessup shockingly admits to ordering the hit.
We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something. You use them as a punchline.
But aside from the moment's narrative significance, it's incredibly emotional. The veteran actor delivers a series of memorable lines with rage and passion, and it's truly captivating to watch.
I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide, and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.